I was a little late to work today, and part of the reason for that is probably because I just procrastinated doing things and then ended up, you know, like getting there kind of late because of that. But what I'm going to attribute it to was me spending time reading this article that I saw that really just kind of like spoke to me, because it's kind of very similar to what I was talking about recently in one of the more popular videos I put out on this channel, which is that nice guys finished last video, which I think partially, you know, it happened for the wrong reason. Oh, god damn it, man. Why are there's flashing lights everywhere today, dude. It's really, it's one of those days, man. It's one of those days. Holy. But yeah, I think that video, people kind of took it the wrong way for some people, but I personally, I really enjoy just kind of watching people fucking lose their shit about that, man, about that video. But I felt kind of vindicated today reading this article, because it was very similar to what I was saying. In that video, I kind of spoke about how I feel like the only trait I kind of had to a lot of people was like being a nice guy, you know? And so people see that and they're like, oh, you know, he's a nice guy. You know, he's always doing his work and all that, but like they don't know anything about me. So you end up with a lot of people where they know you and that they're like, you know, he's a nice guy, but they don't know anything specifically about you. And that was kind of the problem that I had. So I felt a little vindicated when I read this article, and it was pretty much the same thing. And I'll try to remember to put the article in the description maybe. But the gist of it is the person who wrote it talks about this person who they worked with and how they always considered them like a lovely person. And lovely is basically like a substitute for nice guy. Because it's like, this person is nice, everybody, you know, nobody has any problems with them, nobody's their enemy, everybody enjoys their company. But the problem is that they don't really have anybody who they're close to. Oh, that's a train. Okay, well, I guess we're here for a while, huh? But yeah, the problem is that they don't have anybody they're really that close to, you know? And so I kind of felt that, because it's like, I feel like I don't really have a lot of close friends from work. And the article really kind of like delves deeper into the whole thing. But it basically just kind of keeps reiterating that same point of people who are like this, they tend to just kind of be everybody's acquaintance, but not really have close friends. And one of the things that made me think about a lot was like, man, I feel like definitely the thing that really stood out to me was doing things that are like inconvenient or could be like problematic or something. It's like, this guy's moving up. Is the train done already, bro? Like, no, it's not. It's not. We're here for a while, bro. We're here for a while. I don't know why this guy's moving up, but I guess I'll just move up a tiny bit. Just move up a little bit. Dude, he's going again. How are you finding this much room? Yeah, but so I felt that article was pretty spot on in that regard to you know, kind of the whole like taking risks sort of thing, I guess. Because it's like, I never really want to do that, right? And I was thinking about this a little bit before, where it's like, actually, I was thinking about this even before, right? Like, let's say I find the woman that I love, okay? Like, this is like the woman, right? And I was thinking, like, I feel like I am somebody who always gives, and same thing with my favorite coworker. I feel like we are somebody who always gives, because like last night he gave me this little water bottle. It's like dragon fruit punch or something like that, and I was like, that's sick, man. You know what I'm gonna do? I think I'm gonna order pizza, and then I'm gonna order a little personal pizza, and then I am going to resume recording and pick it up. That's what I'm gonna do, I think. So give me a moment here. But yeah, so I was thinking, let's say I like found the one, and you would think, well, I would do anything for her, right? I'm somebody who gives, But I was thinking about it, right? And it's like, let's say that whole thing is true, right? I would do anything for her, right? I thought about it, I said, was that true? And like, obviously it's not going to be true, right? I think for a lot of people, it's like, would you be willing to like, take a bullet for them? And I feel like there would probably be some people that would say no. And I feel like for me, that answer would probably be yes. I think it would be yes. But I'm thinking about it, right? And it's like there are some things that I feel like I wouldn't do if I didn't know. Right? Like if I knew, it'd be like, okay, yeah, sure. If I knew that I was walking past her one day and I'm like, yep, that's her. Then yes, I would go and I would be like, hey, what's your number? And that sort of thing. But if I didn't, would I do that? And I feel like the answer is probably no. And I've like thought about this a lot. It's like I've had a hard enough time asking like my coworkers that I like, and I work with very, very often, asking them, hey, what's your phone number? Let's exchange phone numbers. I had a hard enough time doing that. So it's like doing that with a stranger or even just a coworker that I don't talk to as often. It's like, shit, man. That's like never gonna happen unless I change. Because as it stands, I would never ever do that. I mean, even to this day, right? I only have the numbers of 2 coworkers that I work with in the deli on the regular. Well, one of which technically I don't work with him now because, he's out for surgery for months. But like still, I've realized that there are a lot of like, younger coworkers that I would probably be able to become decent friends with. But the problem is oh my god, dude, these birds are flying right over my windshield. This is crazy. But there's a lot of younger coworkers I'll probably be good friends with, and I feel like it's just hard for me to do those things. And so it goes back to that article where they said, like, oh, I'm actually gonna... You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna pull up the article right now. Let's do that. I'm gonna pull up the article. Oh my god, this is like the longest title in the world. Okay, so I decided to pull up the article, and yeah, it essentially says a lot of things I talked about, right? Where you have a lot of close acquaintances, but a lot of acquaintances, but no close friends. And also that there is no, like, pull to make you want to interact with them. Whereas, like, a close friend, you would want to talk to them a lot. But to, like, a person who's just kind of a nice guy, you don't really feel the want to call them that often, You don't feel the want to talk to them. But the one thing I actually found interesting about the article is that it kind of goes into, like, how you're kind of almost conditioned into it to an extent. And I was like, huh, that's interesting. Because basically talks about how you figured out that this was this was something that you should do early on in life, which I think is kind of true because I was thinking about it a little bit with school too, right? And I feel like a lot of people in my grade, it's like they knew me, but they didn't like know me because uh I never wanted to really like talk about stuff. Or if I did talk about stuff, like if I started talking about League of Legends, people are gonna look at me like I'm smoking crack, you know? So like, you know, I'm not gonna fucking start talking to somebody and be like, yesterday there was this fucking Katarina and she's feeding mid so hard. She was like fucking 0 and 13 and she's building 4 Doran's blades. And they don't even they don't even stack anymore. I don't know if they stack now, but like there was a point where Doran's blades didn't stack. Remember that? Uh but you know, just like start saying some shit like that, and like, and you know, my fucking jungler, he didn't hit a single Moo Q the whole fucking game. And they're gonna be like, do we need like? I think this guy needs to go to the nurse's office like ASAP. Like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? Like that type of shit. So it's like I'm not gonna say that to people unless they know League. Uh, so most of the time I just didn't say shit. You know, I just didn't really make myself known to people, and that's kind of what it says in the article, right? That it is about it is about being somebody who is liked, but not actually, because or liked but not in the way that you would want to be. And so it kind of results in a much heavier loneliness than the loneliness of being unliked. Because the thing is, right, if you're Brian, you know that at least people fucking hate you. But like when you're me, you know everybody likes you, but nobody ever seems to really like talk or want to talk to you that much. And so I feel like this has kind of been the problem with me. And it's something that I've realized has gone on for like a long time. And I feel like when it happened, it was probably middle school. I feel like you can trace everything back in my life. Like, you know, oh, uh when did anything happen, right? And the answer is probably fucking middle school, bro. It's all middle school. Middle school just sucks. That's the thing I've learned in life. Is middle school just sucks. If you go to middle school, you're cooked. And everybody goes to middle school at some point, unless they just don't go to school. And I think if you don't go to school, you also you're just cooked, bro. You're not gonna be able to fucking read. But I think I think that's kind of my thing that I've realized is that it really all started in middle school because before I was somebody who I think generally had a lot of close friends and knew a lot of people early on in like elementary school, and then I got to middle school, and then I just kind of ended up playing a lot of Minecraft and you know just becoming a depressed teenager, and then life just kind of sucked for a while, you know. And I was playing fucking League of Legends, and yeah, just playing League of Legends, bro. That was it. And I think in that time, I kind of learned to stop talking to people as much and to stop, you know, taking risks and stuff. And I think especially is probably true because a lot of my close friends were people that I knew over the internet, especially in like middle school. So there were these guys that I originally, like the first time I ever played League of Legends was with them. I'll never forget the time I picked Teemo as my first League of Legends game ever, playing against a bot game. This Rise bot was farming me. Dude, he was just fucking destroying me on sight. And there was this other guy that was he was playing Sona and he was like trying to help me, but he couldn't do shit. I was just feeding my ass off. And uh I would play a lot of games with those guys when OMG Pop existed. It was like this flash game thing. You play like draw something. They had like some shitty Mario Kart clone, I remember. And I would play those games with them for like a long time. And I had those internet friends. But the thing was that it was awkward. You don't really want to tell your parents, like, oh yeah, I have these people that I talk to over the internet, because especially I feel like now it's probably getting better, but back in those days, right? You had parents, right, where they hear that like you're talking to somebody online, they're like, oh, what? Oh my God, who? Like, no, you can't talk to those people anymore. It's a fucking stupid thing, It's a stupid thing to an extent, because there's like so much skepticism that comes with it. When it's something that's not really that bad, the train is coming. Oh boy. Yeah, this is how it feels when you tell your parents that you have friends over the internet. Yeah, that's how it feels. No, but like, genuinely though, I would have to hide. I would have to hide that fact. So most of the time I would say like, oh, it's my one friend from school, and that sort of thing. And it was something that probably, in hindsight, I think was a good thing and a bad thing, because if I had told them, right, oh yeah, I know these guys from like fucking Canada, they'd be like, what the fuck, like, what? So I can't help but think that in that way, yeah, it was probably a good decision to not say that. But then on the other hand, right, I think it also probably was a bad decision, because then it kind of taught me to hide things, and it taught me to like not be a genuine, authentic version of myself. Because I have my cousin, he knows a bunch of people online, and he actually like went to like meet them like several times. Like they've gone on, like they've had nights where they like went to some bar or something like that, or like they went to a nice restaurant or something, and just they were hanging out for a while. I just feel like I could never do that, because my parents would freak out. But then I think about it and I'm like, yeah, but I went to these like fucking meetups recently that were literally me going and meeting a bunch of strangers who I didn't know at all. I didn't even know them from online. I didn't know them at all, but met them, talked to them, was nice. And I'm thinking, it's like, I probably could do that, but I guess part of it is explaining to my parents is just going to be a headache. And so that's usually why I keep a lot of stuff secret. And then I think it bled into a lot of other parts of my life. It went from, okay, well, I am this, I'm this guy who just, who's an open book, who's fucking sitting there, singing Bon Jovi songs, probably terribly, in the middle of a nurse's office when I'm supposed to be technically, not feeling well. But I was authentic back then. And then I learned to start hiding things, and I learned to start not being my authentic self. And so I ended up in a position where now I am somebody who tends to hide a lot of things. And this was even true at work, because when I started, I didn't really tell people a lot of things. Like there were some people where I literally did not tell them that we had 6 dogs, and they didn't know forever, So I just think about it and I'm like, I honestly really kind of empathize with the article in that extent. And it made me realize that I do really need to change, and I'm glad I have been taking steps towards that currently. I think the best example was that for a while I was making it this goal of taking the hard path one time in a day. And I've still kind of kept to that to an extent. Like even today, there's this woman in the bakery, and her name's Patricia. And she's always nice. She put aside some stuff for us yesterday because we had a free associate offer, so we wanted to get that. But she was like, I'll put some stuff in the fridge, and you can grab it later, so that is gonna be like, expires in 6 days instead of 3 or whatever. So that was nice. I saw her today and I thanked her for all that and everything. And then before I left, I was thinking, I want to talk to her. And I wanted to ask, because I know there are some people that just call her Pat. But I don't want to just, I don't want to start giving her a nickname if she doesn't want me to call her that. So I did the hard thing of asking her, like, hey, would you rather I call you Pat, or would you rather I call you Patricia? And she was like, oh yeah, you can call me Pat. That's fine. She told me she's named after St. Patrick, actually, and I was like, that was cool. But the whole point of me saying that is that, like, it would have been easier to just not have that conversation, not have that awkward conversation of like, oh yeah, I've been calling you this the whole time. Should I be calling you something differently? And just instead just not bothering with that. But I went out of my way to do it because I feel like it's a good thing. And so my whole point in saying that is I think I do really need to try to make a change and trying to break that kind of pattern that I've been in, that rigid structure I've been in, where I don't take risks, I don't do anything to make myself an interesting person. And now I'm starting to try. I've started to try. And I've talked about this in that other video where I talked about how I actually talked to somebody and told them I made videos. And it was something I never fathomed I would do. And I did it for the sole reason, because I did it and I was happy about it for the sole reason I was like, I actually told somebody about this, because I'd never done that. It was like a fucking, well-kept secret, So it was nice to do that. So, yeah, I want to try to get better at this. And as the article says, you are allowed to introduce some friction. You are allowed to be slightly less lovely in service of being more known. The trade is, in my experience, and the experience of friends I've watched make it, well worth making. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I think it's a very interesting article. I think I would definitely read the whole thing personally. I almost didn't even want to read it, because did you get those articles on like the Google feed thing? And it's like, people who don't bring their shopping carts back exhibit these 5 traits. And it's like, I feel like it's AI generated, and like the whole point of it is to make you like just either feel good about yourself or like feel like shit, but most of the time feel good about yourself. Like, yeah, see, I'm not like one of those people that doesn't bring the shopping cart back. Look, they're selfish. They have no time. Like, wow, what a bunch of fucking idiots. Glad I'm not like them. I hate those articles. And they're always like overly specific and just stupid sounding. But the one exception to that is this article, man. This is a good article. Definitely a good read. And it really kind of resonated with me personally, so I'd highly recommend it. And with that, you know what? I think it's time for me to go get some pizza. It's time for me to go get some pizza, dude. I'm hungry. So, yeah, I guess that's it.